All right, we'll open up questions for Coach Schiano, front row. Dave?
Greg, after you reviewed the film, what disappointed you most about your defense?
There was a lot of good stuff on the tape, so I wasn't disappointed other than there were some plays that I was disappointed in. There was actually 82% of the offense came on 7 plays, 82% of the production. We can't allow that. You know, to go back a long time to remember 2 long runs like that, not only here but anywhere. That's it's unacceptable. We made a small error on the 1-yard touchdown pass, a couple small errors, but when you're playing RPOs and people are spreading you out sideline to sideline, you make a mistake, they can make you pay. So good lessons to be learned. It's not acceptable performance, but there was a lot of good things too. You know, 2 sudden changes, and you make them attempt a field goal on both of them. They made one, they missed one. And that's your goal when you go out after a sudden change on the plus 25 or in. Can you make them attempt a field goal? They did it both times. I thought that was excellent. Scoring on defense, that's one of our goals. We score a touchdown on defense, and it really is the way we like to play football around here. You know, we had a great punt, 60-something yards, pinned them back, and then had an opportunity to fortunately score as a defense there on the sack fumble. So there are a lot of good things. We got to play a ton of people. As I said to you early on, we have a young group, 4 or 5 of those guys. That was their first significant action. I think we learned a lot. Now, you know, always people say between week 1 and week 2 is when you make your largest improvement. I think when you're a young unit, that even multiplies. So we need to improve. That's for sure. That's not what we want to be out there. But the opportunity's there.
You mentioned some of the young guys that played well. Just real quick, Tommy Togiai looked like he played well. Maybe some of the other, is that correct? And maybe some of the other first guy flashed. Well,
yeah, we did. We played a lot of guys, so young guys got some opportunities. I thought Tommy did. He played strong. He is strong. I thought Tyler Friday did his job. Nothing spectacular, but I always look at young guys when you watch them on tape. Do they look like they belong? That to me is the measuring stick. Tariq Smith got in there early and played, and I thought did a good job. And I'll probably leave somebody out, but you know, it's good to get them out there playing. That's the benefit of getting a big lead like that. We played, I don't know how many defensive line, we may have played all 14 guys, maybe more than that, 16 guys played on the defensive line, which is always a positive.
4th row, Andrew?
How do you scheme against a guy who's only made 1 collegiate start?
Well, you know, a lot of times you hear that question about the individual, the quarterback per se. More than that is what does it allow the offensive coordinator to do? Because as a coach, you have to scheme against the plays that all 11 guys are going to do. You know, I'm familiar with the quarterback because he's a Jersey kid, and I knew him back when, and then obviously through recruiting, he is a big, strong arm drop back passer with good mobility. He's not a stiff back there, so you have to be ready to be able to have ways to get him down when he does move. So it'll be interesting. You know, Coach McNulty and I go back a long way. He was on my staff twice, once at Rutgers, where he was my offensive coordinator, and then once at Tampa, where he coached the quarterback. So he's familiar with us and defensively, and we're familiar with him. Some of that can be an issue. Like, he knows the verbiage, and I'm sure he's going to tell his players that. So we'll have to change some of the words we use out in the field, some of the calls, so they're not aware exactly what's happening.
Front row right, Bill?
Could you assess the play of the safeties? Obviously, you didn't have Jordan. You're expecting back, and could you assess the way that Johnson and Isaiah played?
Yeah, first we hope to have Jordan back. That was a game time decision. There was a lot of good things they did, and there was a lot of learning that they can take from that tape and that performance, which is good because they're going to have to. I mean, you know, anytime you start 2 guys at the same position, which is the middle of your, going into the game, we knew we were going to have a brand new Mike linebacker and 2 brand new safeties. It's like starting a new catcher and a new shortstop and a new pitcher in baseball right up the middle. So we knew that there could be some growing pains there. Overall, I thought they were solid and made some mistakes, but now at least we have a leaping off point. Now we got to go and see how fast we can ascend. And if we get Jordan back, that certainly makes a big difference.
And just about Urban Meyer coming back today, what was it like in the room when he did return?
It was good. Yeah, excited to have him back. Everybody is. Coach is very focused guy, as you know, and we hit it running, get back to it.
Front row left, Bill.
Greg, what's the plan with Tuck now moving forward since he was able to get in? And when you have young guys at linebacker, how can the presence like Tuck maybe help settle things down a bit for those young guys who are experiencing it?
Well, you saw Tough, I think he had 10 plays, and that was kind of his pitch count, and it's all part of his recovery. There's different stages, right? He went through the rehab, then he went through independent running and change of direction, then he went into some individual technique work, then into some team stuff. And part of that is going and playing live football, and he did that for 10 plays. So we look for that to increase how much. We'll work with our training staff and our medical staff to figure out what's optimal. I thought that Barron did a nice job in there. So as we progress, they're both going to play. They're both really good football players. How much? Kind of going to see how the week goes. We'll up his. Not only will we up his, his repetitions in the game. We'll do that in practice as well. And we've been fortunate. There's been 0 setbacks so far, but you never know.
And on a different topic, I think Dwayne was an 8th grader in South Brunswick when you were at Rutgers. Were you familiar with him at all? And I know he's close with most Stu, and he talked about how much he liked the program when you were coaching there. Do you guys talk about that at all? Sort of you had a role and he was a kid who watching you guys play?
Sure, we have a connection. I remember when I started here at Ohio State, he sent me, when we were recruiting him, his dad sent me the picture of he and I at camp together. He came to our camp, and as you know, Mo is very close to Mo. So yeah, there is definitely a connection with Muhammad, his family. A lot of people, he grew up right across the river from Rutgers, so he's a local guy. So we know a lot of the same people. But great to see him, have the kind of performance he did.
Did you ever think maybe if you were still there, you would end up being the quarterback at Rutgers or something?
No, I haven't thought of that. But I remember he was in our little guys camp, and so were my twins. And I remember them coming down to my office. He was playing whiteout in the pickup 7-on-7 games. He said, "There's one kid up there, number 7. We can't cover. Nobody can cover him." So it was kind of prophetic.
Second row left, Ari.
You touched a little bit about how Barron played. I think that, as Tough continues to recover, I think that people have this vision that he's going to be the guy that steps in and kind of really takes a big role in this team. Can you be a little bit more specific about what you saw out of him? And do you think that he played well enough to continue that role moving forward?
How Barron played?
Barron, yeah.
Like I said last week, I think we have more than 3 linebackers that should play. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna try to work those guys in the lineup, and Barron's one of those guys. As Tough comes back, I can see them ham and egging it. There's certain things that each of them do well right now, and that's our job. And that's not the only linebacker position where we need to do that. I think we have some other guys that can play as well. Dante Booker's coming back from his injury. How does he fit into playing that? Justin Hilliard. I think Justin is playing at a high level. So it's a good. I don't call it a problem. A good situation to have. And we just got to figure out the optimal way to get the best performance from everyone. You saw a little bit in packages, in third down packages, who goes in. We were just talking about that this morning. How do we get everybody on the field and get everybody a role? Because I think that's important. Guys, I know this for a fact. You prepare better when you can kind of visualize what your role is going to be. The role may change second play of the game, but I think it helps you all week long. And now that we're into game weeks, they really go fast. Saturday turns into Saturday really quickly.
Far left, Lori.
Coach, I know you personally have a soft spot for Rutgers in your heart, but what's the value to the league to having an improved Rutgers? I mean, some people would say that having a top-heavy league, you can still get a team to the national championship. So what's the value of having teams like Rutgers and Minnesota and teams that seem to be on the upswing? What's the value to having them play well?
Well, I think general terms, the more competitive teams you have, the better the league, right? So that's general terms. I think Rutgers specifically, its location is key, right? It is right across the river from New York City. It brings a huge market with it, and when Rutgers is doing well, that market gets behind. It's like so many urban areas, though. When you're winning, you're the hot thing. People want to be there. I can remember when we started winning. Now all of a sudden the Giants are on our sideline, and the Jets and pro baseball players. Well, when you're not winning, they're not there. You know, they're not going to be seen in an event that's not an event. So when that gets good, I think that's good for the league to get that East Coast, you know, that far East Coast going is nothing but good for the league.
I hate to be stupid, but like, I still don't understand the value of balance. Because if you had a league that was Ohio State or Alabama, and then all the rest of the teams were podunk with you, it would still be a great team worthy of a national championship. So what's the value of having week in and week out a really tough opponent?
Well, a couple of things. One, if you're a fan, right, of a league or a conference, you love to see competitive games. That, at least I do as a fan of other sports, and this sport. And I love going home and watching college football when we're done. But I think also, you know, the old saying, iron sharpens iron. And when you play in a league that every week you better buckle it up or you're going to get beat, it makes you better. It improves you as a whole organization.
Taylor?
Yeah, Greg, just kind of going off of that, you know, obviously, is there any sentiment or anything that crops up whenever you guys play Rutgers with your connection, and does that factor into game week at all? Or, do you have somewhat of a relationship with Rutgers still? Like, do you talk to Chris and any of those guys
Sure.
at all?
As far as it applies to game week, there's no factor. I mean, you're going to prepare. When you're a coach at Ohio State, it's a very high standard, and you're going to do everything in your power to meet that standard. As far as is it sentimental, sure it is. I mean, we built that program, and really, you know, to come back to your question, from 2002 on, that was always my goal. You know, we got to get Rutgers into the Big Ten. I believe that's where it belonged, the kind of academic institution it is, land-grant institution. So I'm really proud that Rutgers is in the Big Ten. And so when we get ready to play, there are still people I know there. Coach Ash and I are friends. And sure, when you build something, you never forget about it. But now it's our job to beat them, and my job is to make sure that the defense plays the way they're capable of playing against them. And they're better. I mean, you look at the offense, we're game planning as we speak. They're a much better team, and I think Coach McNulty was a great acquisition. Chris had the ability to get Coach and to be his offensive coordinator, and you know, I really think what they're doing, it gives us challenges.
And then obviously, you know, you got a big game coming up next week against TCU down in Texas. You know, I know you guys like to focus on one game at a time, but maybe just to phrase it this way, what's the biggest couple of things you would like to see change on the defensive side of the football this week versus Rutgers, you know, especially with a big game like that down in Texas looming next week?
Well, first, I know people say, like, oh, you know, coaches, they just like to say, I mean, we really do that because coaches as a group, it's all about here. Certainly as the leader, you have to have some plans of what is going on in the background because you're always a week ahead. But all our focus is on one team. And that's the team we're playing that week. But what we need to see get better on defense is there's plenty of that. I think anytime you miss any tackles, that's expected a little bit in the first game, but we really need to work on our angles of entry and our tackles because that was an issue. There were some issues in the past game. We had 2 DPIs called on us, defensive pass interference, which, you know, I'm not crazy. You know, I'm not a lunatic when we get a DPI. You know, that happens. You're covering guys that, you know, are on scholarship too, and they're good players. But if they're avoidable, those are the ones that really bother you. Some are unavoidable. You know, you're being aggressive, go make a play, and you get a flag thrown, that happens. So we need to make sure that gets cleaned up. And then we had, you know, too many big plays. And it's okay if a guy makes a mistake or a guy misses a tackle, but we should have overlap. We should have other guys there to get them down. So if it's a 16, 18-yard play, that's fine. Can't be an 80-yard play. That you don't live very long as a good defense if you're giving up 80-yard plays.
Far left, Dan?
Did Urban tell you guys at all how he spent his past 3 weeks, especially this Saturday afternoon?
No. We like I said earlier, we kind of got right down to business. And you know, today's a big day as a coach. Monday's your big game planning day, and I think Coach has been very sensitive to that. We got together, we staff met. It wasn't very long, and then get in there and get to work on the game plans.
And then Ryan said that maybe the biggest area where he learned or the challenge he had in his first game as a head coach was balancing all three phases while making adjustments on offense. How, from your perspective, did he juggle those things, and did you give him any pointers on that?
I thought Ryan did an excellent job, not only on game day, but as I said last week, leading up to everything that he, all the decisions he had to make and the leadership he provided. But yeah, game day, when you're calling the game as a head coach is different than when you're not. And I've done both. Because you're ultimately responsible for the call that goes in a timely fashion, but you're also responsible for game management and keeping an eye on the other side of the ball in the kicking game. So I'm sure his plate was full, but he did a great job.
Front row right, Austin?
Greg, with the pass rush that you guys have, I know Saturday's just one game. Do you anticipate that some of the screens and quick throws and misdirection, that's just going to be how teams decide to attack you and negate that? And how do you adjust to that?
Well, without a doubt, it will be. Some of those screens, we didn't exactly do things the way we want them done, so we have to improve and get that done. The risk you have to always be careful when you're evaluating your performance. Did we do what we set out to do schematically and from a technique standpoint? If we didn't, it didn't work, then we got to find a new way to do it. If we didn't, then let's go do what we said we were going to do and then evaluate it.
Right.
There's a little bit of that. We need to make sure that we're on point with our details. I think some of it, again, like I said, first game uneasiness for some guys, but it'll be an opportunity this week because they screen in every way that we saw Saturday. This team did it to their opponent last Saturday, so we know they have them all, and I'm sure they have a few we haven't seen.
How many of those teachable moments then do you expect from a team or a first-time guy on a Saturday? How much do you have to live with as a coach when you see him go out there and do it?
Not as many as we had. That's not to me acceptable. The way and it all comes back to coaching. We have to limit those. We had too many.
Time for just a couple more. Front row, Tim?
Yeah, Greg, what did y'all miss with Jordan Fuller not being there? Obviously, he was elected captain. I think he does a lot of calls, or whatever you want to call it. What do you think y'all missed in the secondary with like 3 young starters back there, et cetera, making adjustments, et cetera, as you analyze the video?
We did a pretty good job with the adjustments. I think one thing Jordan gives you is kind of a sweeper back there, an insurance policy. He's a very good tackler in space. And again, I don't know if he's there. Do we get some of those plays? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't live in the speculative world, but I like our odds with him. He's an experienced player. He's one of the best in the country at what he does. So certainly you miss a guy of that caliber when he's not playing.
Up front, it seemed like the front had a pretty good day, but what did you see, like Nick was saying, there were some things, there were some mistakes made, et cetera, by the guys up front, but what did you see that, for them in particular, needs to get cleaned up?
Well, I think, Nick and Draymond played very, very well. When you look at their performance, it was kind of off the charts, right? Some of the other things, so much of what football is today with all the shotgun and the ride and read stuff, it's option football. And when you don't take care of your responsibility, one of those options pops free. We had that a couple times. So we need to clean that up. And obviously the offsides penalties are frustrating, right? When you jump offsides and give them a free play. And if you remember, one of those offsides, actually 2 of those offsides were also DPIs. And what most offenses have built right into their offense, it doesn't matter what the play is, if you clearly feel, see, hear the offsides, it's an automatic deep shot. So, you don't need extra deep shots, that's for sure. So we need to do a little better job of that.
And let's say, how do you think Kendall and Okuda played Saturday? I mean, what's your Kendall, Sheffield, and Okuda?
Yeah, I think they played solid. They didn't have a ton of opportunities. The one was kind of a freakish one on Kendall, that kind of jump ball, underthrown deal. Certainly like to come down with that, but didn't happen. That happens in the game. And those DPIs on Jeff, they're real close balls.
Yeah.
But like I told them, if you put yourself in the shoes of that back judge or that side judge there that's watching, you might call it too. So if our saying around here is if they throw the flag, it's a penalty. It doesn't matter what you think. You don't get a vote in that one. So.
Pete Werner, last thing, you were praising him a little bit last week and stuff, but did he live up to your expectations? Obviously, he caused the fumble that was a touchdown, et cetera. What did you see out of him?
I thought Pete played well, very promising. Did he make mistakes? Sure, everybody did, including yours truly. But I thought Pete played at a high level of speed and plays the game with great passion and really is a contact player. He's going to hit you. So great future for him. We're looking forward to seeing him get better and better.
And last set of questions, front row left. Doug?
What did Okuda do exactly on the 2 pass interferences? How close was he to playing that right?
Well, you know, when you look at pass interference, what I try to explain to the corners is if you restrict them, now you give the official a chance to make the call. And he just had his arm kind of barred, you know, it's called an arm bar. We don't teach that here. But a lot of guys do it naturally, right? It's just, I want to make sure it's kind of like a safety belt. And we just got to just keep running and make the play. There's one play, if you freeze it, you'd think Okuda was the wide receiver. He was on the outside and the receiver was trying to play, so he didn't intercept it. But he got called because he had put his arm out. So little things like that we have to work on. But I thought he was in really good position on both plays. Just got to avoid that penalty.
And we know you guys have done the 3-corner rotation typically here. Are you good with that, those 3 guys? Is that working? That's what you're going to continue with?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I think Sean Wade got in there and did a nice job as well. And, you know, Marcus Williamson, he was a little bumped up during camp, so didn't get all the reps he needs. So I think we have some depth there. So it may be more than 3 that we play, but certainly 3. And then the nickel position is a corner man position as well.
And so that's what nickel you usually put in the top 3 corners out there, right? That's your nickel.
Yeah, and we were talking today, there may be some different mixes and matches we want to do, again, to give everybody a role, something that they can focus on and know they're going to get in the game.